Welcome everybody to the latest episode of Heresy Hammer. We have a special guest this week to discuss the most underappreciated of all the legions, probably because they're the most complicated. It's myself, John, and Adam today.
Hello. Thanks for having me
Hello.
on, John.
Maybe if you go to the next slide, it'll bring up your Instagram handle as well, and you'll be able to see exactly what's going on.
Aye. Yeah. Good cue.
There we go. Right, we're there. We should have practiced this previously, but we're both
Probably.
we're both fly-by-night merchants, so we're just gonna just send it and see what happens.
There's no synergy between us, but there will be synergies in our Thousand Suns lists today.
Well, there we go. Right, that's what we're here to discuss today. So, for those who don't know, my name is John. I'm at D6 Miniatures on Instagram, and Adam is joining me from the upside down part of the world. Is
With
that
poor
correct?
internet.
With poor internet, yeah, exactly. So, if there are massive breaks and pauses in between us saying things, it's the Antipodean internet doing its Antipodean
Hmm.
internet things again, right? It's not like our glorious, glorious British fibre.
Yeah.
Yes. Before you do anything though, head over to Instagram and follow both of us if you don't already. I'm sure most of you already follow Adam. Some of you might not follow myself. And also hit that subscribe button and like and leave a comment, because the number of subs we get to the channel and the viewers and likes in the video is directly proportionate to how I feel about myself right now. I feel at an all-time low, so please go and do that. We are here today to talk to you about the most misunderstood of legions, the Sons of Prospero, the Thousand Sons. Maybe if you go to the
Exciting
next,
times.
might give you a bit of an understanding.
Oh yeah, here we go. Line. Yep, slide.
Hey, there we go.
Right.
Um, Adam, for those of you who don't know, because you've been a guest on the channel before, why don't you give a
Mm.
little bit of a backstory to yourself and your love and appreciation of the Thousand Sons?
Well, first off, thanks for calling me back. I'm glad I made the cut.
You did.
Um, the love and appreciation for the Thousand Suns started a long time ago. Back in my old 40K days, actually, I even played Thousand Suns back then. So I've always just felt intertwined with the Legion. But this pre-heresy army, I've sort of sat on ideas for a better part of nearly 10 years, thinking, when the time's right, I'm gonna fire it and do this army, and it's done now. It's done now.
It's done. It's
It's
entirely
been
done, is
done.
it?
It's been done for a few years. Yeah, I think I will come back to it eventually, but just for now, I'm just moved on to something else. So yeah, I've been playing them for a number of years now through first edition and all through second edition up to this point. So they've been a love of mine for a very long time.
What is it that drew you to the Thousand Sons initially? Was it the kind of the lore? Was it the miniatures range? Was it painting red? Was it what was the kind of the antithesis?
I think it was. I think it was the model range. Um, but what really made me passionate about it and fall in love with the whole aesthetic was the original Horus Heresy artwork for the card game. Do you remember that? It's in
Oh
Visions
yeah,
of Heresy,
yeah.
Visions of
The
Heresy now, and
precursor,
that,
the dip in the toe.
yeah, yeah. So like I said, I've had some ideas just in the back of my mind that I've kept away for nearly 10 years. So it's good to sort of bring that to life finally, now that we've got terrific models that enable us to do that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
And I guess my skill set, I think my skill set's at a point now where I feel comfortable tackling the more challenging conversions and that sort of thing, just in order to bring that sort of vision to life.
yeah.
Yeah, so
So
quite a passion project.
yeah, good. I think that's cool. I think, to be honest with you, enthusiasm is one of the big drivers for creativity, right? I think if you don't really care about something, you're never gonna kind of execute it to the fullest of your capabilities. Um, what we're going to do today is we're going to kind of skip a lot of the lore, because we've covered that in episodes previously where we talked about sort of some of the campaigns, and we think that the Legion deep dives, most people are more interested in how the army plays the tabletop, how you might go about constructing or kind of deconstructing lists. And also, if you are an opponent of the Thousand Sons, how you might counter some of their abilities too. So we're going to primarily focus on the rule sets today and kind of how you would go about creating an interesting and also kind of competitive, maybe is the wrong word, but a Thousand Sons
Mm,
army that works, right?
yep.
Because I think there's a
Yeah,
lot of
we
ways
won't necessarily talk about maybe like the meta choices or the glaringly
yeah,
obvious choices, but maybe some more subtleties in the list that might not be picked up on when you first sort of pick up the book and read about them.
yeah. This is a big brain army, right? It's not for the soft brains like me. This is for people that have the ability to think outside the box a little bit and maybe have a really kind of a good appreciation. I think the title is something that is kind of quite apt. I think they are largely kind of overlooked because on paper they're not necessarily one of the strongest legions, but once you
Mm,
get your head around their abilities and how they can play and what they can do, they can be really, really interesting to play.
agree,
Cool.
agree. It does take a little bit of thinking, but super creative list writing, and you'll bring to the table something that your opponent probably hasn't seen before or may not expect.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we get into that, let's say thank you to some of the show sponsors. So firstly, Bay Miniatures Printing. I think he is buying a new printer every 4 or 5 days at the moment. So that must mean that his capacity for production is excellent. I've got loads of bits from Beowulf in various armies I've had over the years. Really, really nice. So if you're after kind of Legion specific bits, upgrades, and I think they're now starting to do some kind of print on demand scenery and terrain and stuff as well, go hit those guys up, say you came from Heresy Hammer, and Jack might give me a kiss next time I see him. We also have Dan from Gate 3D. So Dan has been a long time support of the show. He's printed a lot of the miniatures that you guys have received through the Praetor tier on the Patreon. Again, has got some really interesting and kind of exclusive prints from some of the biggest designers out there. Always prints in super quality. He's got some stuff that he's doing up for me at the moment as well for a little project I'm going to be working on over Christmas. And has recently kind of gone full time, so which is really, really good. So again, upped his ability to get stuff out the door, which is fantastic. So go and hit up Dan. And then if you are into creating unbelievably diverse battlefields for your 8mm and 28mm games, then head up Sacris Mundus. So this is all files based, so you can get the files on Cult 3D, My Mini Factory, and also via the Sacris Mundus Patreon. And then enlist one of the wonderful printing partners that we've just advertised to print the stuff up for you if you've not got the capacity to do it at home. We've got some stuff coming for a couple of boards that we're doing for Heresy Hammer, and also I played on some stuff a couple of weeks ago and is absolutely wonderful. So, without further ado, let's tackle these red boys.
Our synergy is getting better, John. That was flawless.
It's almost like we've done this before. I haven't done this before, by the way. We've given Rob a well-deserved day off today, so hopefully he's not too furious. It actually also helped now I plug my microphone in as well. So between us, we should be able to, I think, muddle through is how we're going to go. Right.
We'll get it over the line.
We'll get over the line. Of course we will, because we have to. You know, there's failure is not an option here. So without further ado, let's get stuck into this. So one thing you'll notice about the Thousand Sons is they play in a completely different way to pretty much every other legion. I think the only thing that they can kind of be slightly compared to is Dark Angels in terms of how the army list and the kind of rule set is constructed, how you would go about building an army, and also the other things to consider rather than just the physical units themselves. So the most important thing is the cult arcana. So rather than having a set legion trait, all of your units with the infantry or cavalry unit subtype with this special rule gain the psyker subtype. So note that this does not grant any disciplines, but does not otherwise remove any disciplines a model already has access to. In addition, all models with the infantry or cavalry unit type and the character unit subtype that have this special rule must select one minor arcana option, which we'll discuss in a minute. Any model of the
Mhm.
infantry or cavalry unit type and both the independent character and Legion of Stars Thousand Sun special does not already have one or more psychic disciplines may be upgraded for 15 points to gain a single psychic discipline from the core psychic disciplines list. So there's a lot of words there, Adam. What does it actually mean?
Oh, okay. It is kind of confusing
Yes.
on first glance. So what it actually means is that all your infantry and cavalry models gain the Psyker unit subtype. Okay, without any actual additional rules or psychic discipline. So, for example, they will just have the keywords infantry and psyker. So
Yeah.
any weapons that might affect psykers or have sort of adverse effects on them will also affect Thousand Sons infantry.
Yeah.
Now, the only models that can have cult arcana and a minor arcana spell or psychic power is the character in the unit. So only the models with the
So
character
like a unit
unit type,
sergeant or an
like a unit
apothecary.
sergeant. Exactly.
Yeah.
Apothecaries, no. So, sorry, for the cult arcana, yes. Apothecaries, yes. Sergeants, yes. And then your independent characters are the ones that can buy the big psychic disciplines from the rulebook
Yep.
for an extra 15 points.
So any independent character can essentially become also a librarian or a pseudo librarian for 15 points.
Yeah. Now, one important thing to note is that if your squad sergeant dies, for example, that unit will then also lose their cult arcana, even though they all still have the psycho subtype.
Yeah. Okay. So that's something to be wary of, right?
Super wary, super wary. And when we sort of delve into the cult arcana, I'll also explain some of the traps and some of the pitfalls to Thousand Sons players as well, because it is malevolent magic.
Yeah. Okay. So, but basically, you're adding a real big layer of complexity across the board, right? But
Mm,
this is supposed to be positive. So let's look at the Prospering Arcanas and work out what they do and where they might prove benefit. So we've talked about some of the nega traits about being a psyker, but also at the same time, there are lots and lots of positives. So Prospering Arcana, any models with a character and psyker subtype in a Thousand Sons attachment must select one minor arcana. So that's interesting. So you can't just not run any at all. You have to run one.
yep.
Um, so from the following options during army selection before the beginning of the battle. So basically, what is that particular wording designed to mean that you shouldn't? How would you play it in terms of, let's say you're going to an event and you might be coming up against several different legions or mechanicum or militia, sire,
hmm
etc. Would that mean that these should be locked in when you're writing your list, or should these be
Yes.
locked in? Cool.
During army selection, and that's what I take to mean. That's what I take to mean written on
Yep.
your list prior to the battle.
Cool.
So if I was to go to a 6 game event, I would have the 6 same minor arcana spells through every game.
Okie doke. Good. I think that's good to clarify. Okay, so we've got a little white box in the top right. So this is from one of the FAQs. So the question is, are the following Thousand Sons units treated as having gained the Psyche unit subtype through the Cult Arcana ability, brackets, and are therefore not eligible to gain a Psychic discipline unless they have another special rule or option which grants access to one? It's Magnus the Red, Sekhmet, Contemptor Osiris Dreadnought, Aslax, a Chaos Automata, Kenetai, Occult Cabal, Araman, Amon, the Amatara Occult Intercession Cabal, which is in the Legacies list, and the Thousand Sons Numerologist Cabal, which is the exemplary battle
hmm
army.
Yep.
So, what does that mean to you?
Okay. So I'll be honest, John, that kind of went in through one ear and out the
Yeah,
other.
yeah,
However,
yeah,
these units are not eligible to gain a psychic discipline unless they have another special rule.
yeah,
Okay, so a lot of those characters that are on that list already have their psychic disciplines listed, so
yep,
you wouldn't be able to change it out for another one.
yep.
Or that particular unit has their own minor arcana spell, which is also in their unit description.
Cool. Okay. Fine. And then the second question, which is in the other white box, is can a Thousand Suns model with the independent character, Apothecary Detachment, or Techmarine Covenant special rule join units or be assigned to a Thousand Suns unit which has a different Prospering Arcana? And the answer to that is yes. So much like Dark Angels, where you can have like a Deathwing model joining a Firewing unit, or a Raven Wing character joining a Deathwing unit, that's all fine. So essentially, you can then start adding in different Prospering Arcanas to create these additional kind of layers within layers, wheels within wheels,
Exactly.
right? And this
Yep.
is
Yep.
where
Exactly.
the kind of list can start to kind of elevate by some interesting choices and some good play, right? And some good knowledge of the
Yep.
army.
Yep.
Okay, so there are three Prospering Arcanas. So we start off with Corvidae. So when a unit that includes a psyker with this power makes a shooting attack, the controlling player may take a psychic test for the psyker with this power before any rolls to hit are made. If the check is successful, then the first wound scored on the unit, target unit by the shooting player is allocated by the psyker's controlling player. So essentially, they're going precision shot on the first wound. Yeah,
Yep. Yep.
that's really cool.
Terrific.
Really
Super
cool.
handy for some units. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So as an example, who Corvidae, who might that be really suited to?
I mean, the first unit that sort of comes to mind that might be an obvious choice might be a Las Cannon Squad. What do you think, John?
I think it's the simple person's choice, but the obvious choice as well. So essentially, what you're going to get is the first wound is going to be a sniping wound. So you can allocate that first wound to, let's say, a character within that unit or a unit sergeant, etc. So you can snipe out a unit sergeant, or you can snipe out. Let's say if you've got a herald inside a unit so on a scoring objective, you can ping that guy off, and then the rest of the wounds are allocated as per normal.
Exactly.
So, if the psychic check is failed, however, then the psyker suffers perils of the warp. Now, this is something that's going to crop up an awful lot, but perils of the warp for regular units is tricky, right? Because they, let's say it's a unit sergeant who's got a leadership of 8.
Yes.
There's no guarantee he's going to pass it, and if he dies or if he fails, there's a high probability he's going to blow his own head off, right?
Or he can take one of his friends in the squad, thankfully.
Of course you can. Yeah, no, that is true.
Yeah.
That is true, actually. But this is kind of, you're only going to get this off like 60% of the time. But when you do, it's going to be a real, a real bonus to you.
Yeah. All these cult arcanas will cause perils of the warp if you
Yeah,
do fail them. So it is important to keep in the back of your mind some sort of contingency plan if things start to go awry or if the
yeah.
dice betray you.
What is your typical contingency plan then? What's your fallback option?
There's a really good warlord trait that
Hmm.
helps get some really important cult arcana over the line with some of your independent characters, and
Yep.
that's really handy.
Okay.
However, you do just have to sort of stack the chips in your favor.
Yeah.
And yeah, another option is also to add models like apothecaries and other arcanas into that unit as well for a second chance at rolling a spell.
Yeah.
So yeah, important distinction to make.
Question for you actually, and this is someone because I don't play with a lot of psychers very often. So can you modify leadership in order to improve your psychic test?
Yeah, and you can
So
also you
if
can
you've got like
also
a
decrease
company
an enemy's leadership.
okay, cool. So for argument's sake, if you've got say a company standard that buffs leadership within range of a unit that's taking a psychic test, then you take it at that modified leadership, not the unmodified.
Yeah, the same way fear would affect that unit as well.
Good to know. See, every day is a school day, right? Even for
Hmm.
people such worldly wise as myself. Um, Raptora. So when a unit that includes a cycle with this power is selected to make a move or run move during the controlling player's movement phase that ends within 12 inches of an enemy unit, so important, not a reaction. So it's got to be in the control
Hmm.
movement phase. The controlling player may make a psychic test for the cycle with this power before any models in the unit are moved. If the psychic check is successful, then all models in the unit with the psychic unit subtype and the Thousand Suns special rule get a 6 of invulnerable save. Or if that unit has already an invulnerable save, that save is increased by 1 step. For example, from a 6 to a 4, up to a maximum of 4 up, until the start of the controlling player's next turn. So again, on the surface, seems really useful, right?
Does seem really useful. Yeah. There was a very similar spell in first edition with the Thousand Suns that was really handy, and you saw it a lot. on units
Yep.
like Cataphractii Terminators. I do think this is handy for sticky situations, but I'd say it's less common these days.
Is that uh is that because you can't buff your Cataphractii to a 3-up invulnerable, as an example, or
Yeah, also, and Cataphractii can't run
yeah,
either, which hurts them a little bit with regards to this power. And also, I think there are just other sort of competitive arcana that might be more useful.
yeah, cool. And Athenaeum, when a unit with this Psyker, so when it includes a Psyker with this power makes a shooting attack, the controlling player may make a psychic check for the Psyker with this power before any rolls to the hit or made or reactions declared. If the test is successful, the enemy unit targeted by the shooting attack must reduce the leadership characteristics for all model in the unit by 1 for any pinning or morale test caused by the shooting attack. So if you've got, let's say, a recon squad with Nemesis Bolters, for instance, or Vigilator, he might want to look at taking this psychic power.
Absolutely. It's also really handy on models that have access to shell shock, like a rotocannon squad,
Yep.
because then you're stacking
Minus
that shell
back off.
shock
Yep.
with the Athenaean as well. So slowly we'll get to unveil some combos that are rather juicy.
Yeah. Cool. So that seems pretty straightforward for starters. So it's, we're getting there. We're starting to
Yep,
see some synergies. What's up next?
I've got the clicker.
You have
Got
got
it
the
for a
clicker.
minute.
So we've then got Pyre. So when a charge is declared for a unit that includes a psychic with this power, the controlling player may make a psychic test. If the power is successful, sorry, before, but I'll go back a second. May make a psychic check for the psychic with this power before any dice are rolled to determine if the charge is successful. So that's the important part. If the check is passed, then all models in the charging unit with the Psycho subtype and Thousand Sun special rule gain a Hammer of Wrath 2 special rule, with all hits inflicted by this Hammer of Wrath special rule counting as flame attacks. Is this something that,
It's super cool, right?
yeah, super cool. Yeah.
Super cool. I think it'd be great on an assault sort of based list.
Yep.
And especially when you are doing something like deep striking in
Yep.
with particular units, which you can do through one of their Rite of Wars. And if you couple it with something like Pavoni, Cult Arcana, which is next, then you get the speed and you also get a little buff on your charge as well.
It's all sounding pretty wonderful so far.
Mm.
So, Pavoni then. So, when a unit that includes a Psycho with its power selected to make a move or run move during the controlling player's movement phase, the controlling player may make a psychic check for the Psycho with this power before any models in the unit are moved. If it's successful, then the any models in the moving unit with the Psycho type and Thousand Sun special rule add a bonus of +3 to the distance moved and may ignore any penalties their movement for moving through difficult terrain. That's really handy.
It's super handy, and I'm gonna go on the record and say low key that this is the best Cult Arcana that units have access to. Generally speaking, I
Yep.
think others might be better equipped for particular units, but I think this is the best Cult Arcana that can be broadly applied to a list, and that will give you lots of success in your games. And that's partly to do with how fundamental the movement phase and how crucial the
Yep.
movement phase is to winning games and dictating where the battles are fought on the table, where objectives are, and putting speed onto the game as well with particular units. I mean, you can start to combo that with Cataphractii Terminators, which are by nature super slow. All
Yeah.
of a sudden, they're moving 9 inches.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're not hindered by difficult terrain as well, um, is low key extremely good because you can just hop straight over something without any penalty, and then it's almost like getting a getting a +5 movement on aggregate, right?
Yeah. It's
Yeah, so it
really,
becomes
really,
it
really
becomes
good.
super handy, especially if you need to get away from an enemy unit, you can use the terrain then to your advantage to then put further distance between units. So it's incredibly handy.
Yeah. I must admit, for having started to play my Death Guard recently, and I'm playing the Reaping, so they can't move. Oh, sorry, they can't make additional moves on top of their movement, but their movement, because of what they're able to do when they are moving, is just so decisive that I think it's not unfair to say that the majority, or certainly a significant number of games, are won or lost in the movement phase. And it,
If not, maybe all. I think
yeah,
probably the movement phase and maybe the deployment phase are the two most important phases of the game, and
yeah.
it's the two phases that probably may not garner enough respect from some players, because the way you can control the game through just those two phases alone can massively impact results.
So I'm just going to clarify this as well. So the +3 benefit of movement doesn't affect charge bonuses, correct?
No, it does not. It only gives you the +3 movement buff in your movement phase only.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so
So
you wouldn't be able to carry that +3
no.
into a charge modifier. Yeah.
Yeah, but it does make things like assault squads. I mean, like dreadnoughts as well. Dreadnoughts will like having a base movement of 11
Hmm.
potentially, and then being able to charge
Insane.
2d6 with a +1. Yeah, I
It's
mean,
insane.
crazy, right? So we're going to be referring back to the Prospering Arcana quite a lot. You'll see as we kind of go through the kind of units. So it might be just worth kind of referring back to this particular point if you needed to. But I think we've covered them in good detail. So we're going to start to kind of go through the Rights of War and the Warlord traits as well. Oh, I forgot they had an advanced reaction. Whatever. Um,
You
talks
might you
about the
might as well
advanced.
forget it, John, because it's not great.
Okay, well, let's read it and then we'll gloss over this then. So the advanced reaction may be once during the battle during the opposing player's shooting phase when an enemy unit declares a shooting attack target unit under the reactive player's control, made up entirely of models with the Thousand Sun special rule and the Psyker subtypes. That's the important thing. It must be Psykers,
Hmm.
must be
Hmm.
Thousand. So once the active player resolved all to hit and to wound rolls, but before any armor saves are made, the reactive player must make a psychic check. If the check is passed, the reacting unit gains a 3-up and vulnerable save against all wounds inflicted that trigger against the shooting attack triggered the unit triggered the reaction. If the check is failed, then the unit gains a 5-up and vulnerable save, and both the attacking unit and the reacting unit suffer peril to the warp. So it doesn't strike me as like particularly terrible. It's not the best, but
It's not particularly. It isn't particularly terrible. However, when you do stack it against other Legion advanced reactions, it kind
yeah,
of pales in comparison.
yeah,
The fact that you can only use it on a Legion Astartes model with the Psyker
Psycho subtype.
subtype as well really limits the amount of units that you could use it on. It
Yeah,
basically only keeps it for infantry, your Psychic Dreadnought,
yeah,
and cavalry units,
yeah,
because they're the only things that actually benefit from Legion trait as well.
yeah. But still, if you've
Vehicles in
got
the Thousand Sons
something,
Army do not. So
if you've got something you need
look,
to keep alive, right?
it is handy. It is really handy in a sticky situation. If you're gonna cop that volley from a unit of 10 las cannons, it
Yeah,
might be a great time to turn it on, just to try and save your bacon. It has helped me in one or two sticky situations, um, but it is probably not something you're going to use every game either.
yeah, that's fair. I can see
Yeah.
that. I can see that. But I think it's no by no means bad. It's another nice little tool to have in your back pocket should you need it.
Mm.
Cool. Okay, so do you want to talk through the warlord traits? Because I think you said that there's one particular standout here, but we should probably discuss them all and where you might want to use them.
It is the first one actually,
Yep.
Magister of Prospero.
Yep.
I think it's probably the standout one, not because it is super powerful, but it's probably because it's the most reliable
Yeah.
in in a legion where you're trying to get these powers off, and every roll's a gamble.
Yeah.
So without reading it word for word, you essentially roll 3 dice and pick the two lowest for your psychic test.
Yeah. You are.
And it also grants you an additional movement phase reaction as well.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And as you said, movement is where you can be super aggressive, right? Or
Mm.
defensive if needs be. But I think it's not unfair to say that without you are reliant on your like latent psychic abilities as a Thousand Suns army in order to kind of make it work right. So anything that assists you is going to really kind of accelerate how effective you are.
Exactly. And I think the power that you want to use the most, or what your army list synergy will rely upon the most, will probably have to go on the Warlord if you're going to give him this Warlord trait,
Yeah,
because that is the one you're going to be banking all your tactics off of.
yeah, absolutely. We're not going to be going through all of the core psychic disciplines in this particular video because it will just take us until the end of time.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
time on this planet is limited, but I think we're going to cover that in a subsequent video, maybe over on the Patreon or on the main feed. I can't really remember what the schedule looks like right now. Safe to say, we've got a lot to get through between now and the end of the year. So what about Evoker of Pain, which is the traitor only?
Trader only, right? So essentially what this guy does is he deals out his um, perils of the warp damage to
Yep.
others around him, and not himself. So if he does fail a psychic test, neither the warlord or the unit that he's with suffers any wounds. Instead, you select a unit that has at least one model within 6, or that's locked in combat with the warlord with this trait. The selected enemy unit suffers D3 wounds, just like a normal perils. Um, and you can only use invulnerable saves and no damage mitigation rolls.
Yep.
If there's no units within 6, then you just resolve the perils as normal. And it just goes on to say that wounds inflicted in this manner don't count for resolving the winner of a combat or combat res, and never causes morales or pinning tests. So he also grants the player a additional reaction in the assault phase.
This is fine, but really you want to avoid perils anyway, don't you? So rather than mitigating your perils, if it's
Absolutely.
something that avoids it, helps you avoid it, then you're going to take that, aren't you? Let's be fair.
Yeah, absolutely. And for the first couple of turns of the game, at least, you aren't really that close to an enemy unit.
Yeah.
And those first couple of turns are really seminal um, in getting those powers off and starting to overlap those synergies in your list. So I don't really find a big place for this warlord trait. It's super situational.
Yeah.
Um, if you were to use it, it would probably go well on a character that wants to be in combat and that can make combat quite quickly.
Yep.
Um, Otherwise, I'd probably tend to leave this one at home.
And would you also say the same thing about the Eidolon of Suffering as well?
Not necessarily. I
Okay.
think I think it's probably still actually really reliable. Now, essentially, this guy is not a psyker. However, units that cause and have spells go off around him buff him essentially. So he can't use any psychic powers or psychic weapons, but he gains adamantium will 3 plus. And when another model, friendly or enemy, makes a psychic test within 12 of the warlord, the controlling player rolls a d6. On a 1, there's no effect. On a 2 or higher, he gains Rage 2 for the remainder of the battle. And if this trait would grant the Rage 2 special rule a further time, then it instead increased the value of the Rage by 1 from Rage 2 to Rage 3, and so on, up to a maximum of Rage 4.
So
Now,
essentially what you can do is you can put him into a unit. The unit can use its minor arcana, or
yes,
if there's another character who's a librarian within that, every time that they are making a move, doing some magical goodness, then this guy is just going to get more and more and more fucking raging.
yeah, so there's every single chance that he'll be Rage 4 by the end of your turn 1.
Yeah,
And I mean, he can't take any of the Achaean force weapons. However, if it's on a model like a Praetor that has access to the Thunderhammer,
yep,
all of a sudden, Thunderhammer's got Rage 4 and he's looking super dangerous. And you
yeah,
want to get him into combat as soon as possible. So I think this would be great on something like a Praetor on a bike.
yeah,
Yeah, like a jet bike.
yeah.
That way you can buff him turn 1 and just send it.
So you can be an absolute monster. So you can
Yeah.
obviously use your Pavoni to give you your +3 movement on your jet bikes as well. Give him an extra bit of rage. In he goes.
Oh, now you're thinking, John. I like it.
So yeah, I mean, I'm already seeing some stuff that's going on. Okay, so rights of war. There are two unique rights of war. They are the Achaean configuration and Guard of the Crimson King. Now, Guard of the Crimson King has a stigma that exists from the first edition, right, where this was just
Oh,
absolutely horrible
I'm getting a
to play
I'm getting a
against.
cold sweat. I'm getting a cold sweat
Yeah.
already.
Now,
Whew.
I think that God of the Crimson King was the main crux of the kind of anti Thousand Sons hate that built up in the first edition, because it was just mental.
Mm.
Sekhmet was so harsh, as was Magnus, and together in God of the Crimson King, it was an unstoppable psychic whirlwind.
It
Um,
was. It gave the Thousand Sons a bad name,
It
truth
did
be
really
told.
bad, really
Yeah,
bad. I'm not
yeah.
sure
And
they've shaken that off since. Well, it caused them to be nerfed. They were one of the few, didn't it? Didn't God the Crimson King get
yes,
a rewrite, which is or Magnus himself got a rewrite that, and that's one of the first instances where one of the few instances that I can think of where something was clearly so out of the fucking tree that someone had to step in and tone it down. Doesn't often happen, not in Heresy anyway.
yeah, yeah. You're right. It gave the Legion on a whole a really bad name because everyone just played that list,
Hmm.
especially at your more competitive style
Yeah.
events. Um, which wasn't great because then that nerf also filtered down into just your regular Thousand Sons builds where nothing was actually wrong with them.
Yeah.
Or and they were the least offensive part of the army. So it's that 1% or that 2% that
It's
had
ruined it
just
for everyone.
ruined it for the rest. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. It's always the way, isn't it? It's always the
Oh
way.
yeah.
Rather than punishing the 1%, they wanted to punish the 95. And that doesn't just go for
Correct.
heresy, that goes for life, by the way. Be careful of it. So we'll quickly go through the account configuration first, because I think this is the lesser spotted Thousand Sons unique right of war.
It is. I so want this Rite of War to be good. I really do.
Is it the
It
right of war
it
that's a letdown, or is it the units that you're forced to take are a letdown?
maybe a bit of column A and a bit of column B.
Yeah.
Should we quickly run through it?
Let's run through it. So, a detachment uses right of war may select Castellax, aka automata units as non-compulsory troops. Any model from the detachment uses right of war that within 12 inches of a Castellax Achaea model and suffers perils may choose to allocate all of the wounds inflicted to the Castellax. And sorry, I've just taken loads of Tic Tacs. And that's
Oof.
rattling around inside my brain. And a Castellax Achaea in this detachment using this right of war is considered to have the line unit subtype as long as that model is within 6 inches of a friendly model with both the Legions of Starty's Thousand Suns special rule and the Psyker subtype. So if you're used to playing Castellax in a mech list, essentially if he's with his Magos, they're line. On the
Mhm.
surface, pretty cool. I quite like this in theory. The limitations. So any Castellax automata selected as troops must include more than one model. So you've got to have a minimum unit size of 2 because the technical minimum unit size is 1 when they're in the list. You must have one Legion Tech Marine Covenant, which I guess is their kind of minders, right? Makes sense because that's a good guy to put them with because he's got his servo arm and can do battlesmithing as well as being a psyker. And you must include one Praevian.
Mm. Yeah.
Not too many limitations there. It's kind of forcing you down the themed alleyway, isn't it? Is that what it's doing?
It's super thematic. It's almost like a pseudo Brethren of Iron
Mm,
style list. And they've got similar sort of list taxes as
yeah,
well built in there. But the fact that you have to take a Praevian as a tax, he does not unlock the Rite of War, so you still need to take a Master of the Legion.
yeah.
And the Tech Marine as well, even though it's super thematic to have the Tech Marines in the list, it is a tax that you may or may not want to be paying, especially in smaller style games. And he's not necessarily the minder for the Castellax. You just have to have a model with that's like a subtype. So that could be a tactical marine
Hmm.
because the tactical marine has the psycho subtype.
Yep.
So it is super thematic. I have tried to make it work in half a dozen to a dozen games now. there's a lot of issues with this rite of war, not only with the rite of war, but with the units as well.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I really want it to be good. But if you are just a fluff bunny and you love making thematic lists, this might be a really cool choice for you. And it's off the wall. Like
Yeah, you're not going to see
no
this.
other list in the game will be like this list.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen a Thousand Suns army at an event that isn't an underlined Rite of War or Guard the Crimson King ever. So
Mm,
we'll see what comes up. So Guard the Crimson King. So essentially, this is your ultra, well, it was your ultra elite guard of Magnus, right? And he's even mentioned in the limitations. So the effects are straightforward. The controlling player may designate up to 6 units from a detachment using this rite of war that are made up entirely of models with the infantry unit type. These units gain the deep strike special rule. So when these units are deployed as part of a deep strike assault, they gain the Fear 1 special rule for the duration of the turn in which they're deployed to the battlefield. Second line is Sekhmet Cabals may be selected as troops choices for detachment using this rite of war. So don't get in line, but you can take them as compulsory troops. So really cool. And Fear 1 when you're deep striking, especially if you then look at things like putting him with a herald or counteracting that with like night fighting, that just deep striking down. When I think we talked about this in one of the episodes, we talked about Night Lords lists on one of the community shows.
Yeah.
Being able to kind of layer that fear and those minuses. For instance, if you've got a big deep strike that's going to cover a large portion of the board, you can pin half your opponent's army with plus 3 coming down from deep strike.
Yeah, absolutely you can. And then you can start working in even more layers and go, okay, I'm going to take a rotor cannon squad with shell shock, and they're going to be Athenian as well.
Yeah.
So that's a -2. And then it's night fighting for a -3, and I'm causing Fear 1 for a -4.
Yeah. All of a sudden, that humble rotor cannon squad is a priority target for a lot of people. But if you're shooting them, then also at the same time, you've got loads of Sekhmet kicking around potentially. And they're no slouches, right? They're not quite the mega murderers they once were. But again, there's loads of ways you can buff them up. So the limitations are actually, I think, not really limitations at all. So you must include either Magnus the Red, Araman, or a Legion Praetor, Legion Cataphractii Praetor, or Legion Tartarus Praetor upgrade to have a psychic discipline. I mean, you're likely to do that anyway, right?
100%.
Yeah. And this rifle may not be used by an allied detachment. There you go.
Yep.
So
yeah,
I think. Sorry.
Go, John.
No. You go for it.
I think this list has got a lot more flexible in second edition.
Yeah.
Because of the ability to grant units just deep strike. Yeah. And that's up to six infantry units as well. So you can combine those infantry units in your deep strike assault with other units in your list that also have deep strike assault to come in in the same wave.
Yeah. So if you've got assault squads, jet bikes, there's loads of things. Indentured Thalax, for instance, there's loads and loads and loads of things.
Land speeders.
Yeah. But it's only the units that are it's only those units that are within the rite of war that gain Fear 1, right?
Correct, but there's going to
be not
be
the entire deep strike. It's just those units.
Up to 6 units. Yeah, exactly. But the whole wave will come down at once. Yep. So
pretty good. Okay, right.
Let's super flexible.
Yeah, super flexible. This is I think that we're already starting to see some synergies and stuff coming through. So not only do the Thousand Suns have loads of rules, they also have quite a number of weapons as well. So I think the first thing that we need to kind of discuss is the errata box. I'm just going to move my face out of the way. So there was an errata, not an FAQ, an errata in magenta. So change the second sentence to activate this special rule, the controlling player must take a single psychic check using the leadership characteristics if any model in the unit does not have the independent character special rule, brackets, unless the unit is entirely composed of models with independent character special rule, in which case the controlling player can select which of these models' leadership characteristics is used. So, Achaean Force. The controlling player of any unit that includes one or more models with a psychic unit type and the ability, a weapon or ability with this special rule may choose to activate this special rule before making any attacks with that weapon or resolving the ability. We've obviously then just discussed that that's changed. So if the check is successful, then the strength value of all attacks made with weapons or abilities with this special rule is increased by +2. This benefit is applied only in the phase in which these attacks are made and ends immediately after the phase is resolved. If the check is failed, no benefit is gained, but the models in that unit may attack as normal. So what does that mean to the smooth brains amongst us, myself included?
Basically, you get +2 strength on your special force weapon
Yep.
instead of the normal force keyword multiplying, which is double the unit
Yep.
strength. However, you don't cop the negative of the perils of the war for failing
Yep.
that test. And
Cool.
you can just continue to attack as normal. Yeah.
Seems pretty wonderful to me. So Arcane
Good.
forces seen on both the combat and also some of the range weapons as well. So let's take a little look at the Aether Fire. So any model with 1,000 Sun special rule may exchange a plasma pistol for an Aether Fire pistol, a plasma gun or plasma blaster for an Aether Fire blaster, plasma cannon for an Aether Fire cannon, or a Gravis plasma cannon for an Aether Fire magna cannon for no additional points cost. So 1,000 Suns, we look at Iron Warriors with their shrapnel weapons for bolt guns. This is the 1,000 Suns equivalent. This is plasma, but special plasma. So
Yeah, similar to like your word bearers,
yeah.
Warpfire plasma, just a modified version of plasma. Yeah.
So the Aether pistol is range 10, strength 6, AP 4, pistol 1, rending 6 plus, Achaean force. So obviously you can buff that in theory up to strength 8.
Yep.
No biggie
It's
there.
great. It's great. So essentially with these Aether Fire weapons, you're losing 1 point of strength from your regular plasma, but
Yep.
you're gaining the ability to
To make it.
potentially bring it to strength 8,
Yeah.
and you're also gaining the rending 6 plus.
Yeah. So let's kind of look at this in the kind of context. So like strength 6 and strength 7, for the majority of stuff you're going to be firing this at, makes no difference, right? You're going to be largely going to be winning twos, but obviously what you've got with the ability to make it straight 8 is the ability to, for most Legion units, let's say for this, is going to be the ability to like double people out.
Correct.
So you'll be losing feel no pains, multi-wound models will be instant death, etc. But also, like a look at these lot of weapons, like their ability to kind of take on like a lot of mech units as well, really handy. Like if you've got a lot of Thalax, you don't want to be coming up against a lot of like strength 8 AP4, even strength 6 AP4, to be honest with you. So the Aether Fire Blast is nice because it's range 18, strength 6, AP4, assault 2, rending 6 up, and Achaean 4. So assault's obviously really handy because you can you can charge with it, move, fire, and charge. The Aether Fire Cannon, range 24, heavy one, blast 3 inches, strength 6, Achaean force. And then the Magna Cannon is 5-inch blast, rending 6 up, Achaean force, and the potential to make it strength 8. So do you use many Aether weapons in your lists?
Not really. And that's more of out of laziness than anything else. I've got all the Aether Fire weapons sitting there ready to go, and I just never bothered to paint them just because it is a lot of gold.
Yeah.
I do really like the look of the Magna Cannon, the
Yeah.
Aether Fire Magna Cannon. I think that's terrific, being the large blast that it is. And it's really nice in 2.0 having a lot more capacity to put these Aether Fire weapons on a variety of different units and vehicles.
Yeah.
So again, it really opens up the thematic element of the army a lot more too, that some other legions sort of don't have, to set apart the army once again.
Yeah. So like Aether Fire Magna Cannons on, let's say, a Dreadnought,
Predator tanks.
Predators, Box
Yep.
Dreads,
Box dreads, super good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or even like an Aether Fire Magna Cannon heavy support squad, for instance. An Aether Fire Cannon, not Magna Cannon, but Aether Fire Cannon like support squad. Like
Super
pretty
cool, right?
devastating.
Or
Mhm.
you can even do like a plasma support squad,
Yeah.
8 to 10 man plasma support squad.
Keep striking
And
down
then
in
you
Guard
can,
of the Crimson King.
with something like a Master of Signals
Yep.
or Tech Marine in there for Cognitive Signum, all of a
Yep.
sudden you're hitting on 2s with Strength 8 weapons.
Mm-hmm.
You can really start to apply those combos. If they're
Yeah.
Athenaean, you can put the first rending hit, which is going to
Yep.
be Strength 8 onto a character that you want, double them
Yeah.
out.
See, we're
So
getting there, right?
the layers
The
start to
wheels, the
come
wheels are
out.
turning. The wheels are turning, and also as well, there's no concerns about getting hot as well.
which is super good
Yeah, super, super good. And then we
because
also,
your Legion trait kills you enough as it is.
yeah,
You don't
yeah,
need weapons
exactly.
doing it as well.
You don't need that as well. That's just too
Yeah.
much admin. And then we have the Achaea pattern force weapons. So any model with the Thousand Sun special and the character unit subtypes, that's not just independent characters, any character may exchange a power weapon for an Achaean force weapon for no additional points cost, which I think is, again, really nice. So the force
Hmm.
sword is strength as user, AP3, melee, rending 6 up, Achaean force. The force axe is strength user +1, AP2, but it is unwieldy. And then my favorite, the force maul, strength +2, AP3, melee, Achaean force. So combining the force maul with Achaean force and then sending them into like power armored marines.
Veterans, see ya,
Yeah,
mate.
just done.
Mm.
Just done for, mate. Absolutely
Super tasty, right?
done for. But even your Achaean force swords, if you've got a character like a Moritat in a unit with rad grenades as well.
Yep,
Yeah,
handy. I also think just power axes in general this edition are a little bit underwhelming compared to some
yeah,
of the other power weapons available now.
yeah.
So instead of being a measly strength 5 and always having that 2 to wound roll up, um, you're going to be strength 7 and
Yeah,
wounding most things in the game, 95% of units in the game on a 2 plus. So
nice, mate.
super handy as well.
Yeah, really, really cool. Okay. And then lastly, you have asphyx shell. So you have a different shell type for your bolters as well. So it costs a point per weapon to upgrade. And they count as bolt weapons for rules that affect such weapons. A bolt asphyx bolt pistol is range 8, strength for AP5, pistol 1 shred. An asphyx bolter is range 18, strength 4, AP5, rapid fire, shred, and an asphyx bolt canister is 24, strength 6, AP4, heavy 4 shred. So just like Thousand Suns, Iron Warriors, shrapnel, which are causing
Hmm.
pinning, these are shred. So pretty good, right? Any reason not to take these on regular tactical marines apart from um, the reduced range?
Well, I want to just make a point on the reduced range. Is it really going to be reduced range if you are running Pavoni for +3 movement on your units?
Exactly. Well, that's what I was going to say. You see, we're getting this
Mm.
now. We're starting to think about this a little bit more, right? We're starting to really rethink about this.
I never leave home without the aspect shells on my tactical marines.
Yeah, just
Um,
as
the
I wouldn't ever think of
the
leaving them.
shred is unbelievable,
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
Something like Crimson King, you can deep strike right in front of your enemy and just spray them immediately
yeah.
with rapid firing bolt guns.
Like a
The shreds
20-man tac
invaluable
squad with
because it
rapid firing bolt guns that are shredding.
still works on a Fury, that shred.
Yeah,
Um, it pays its dividends. You will get your points back for the points invested in your tactical marine units for sure.
so these are, we're just going to blanket this. This is a no-brainer if you're taking bolt guns.
For me, 100% they are because I like to use tac marines. I get a lot of enjoyment out of
Oh,
using
who doesn't?
tactical marines.
Who
Yeah,
doesn't?
so I don't leave home without them. No, they are the first upgrade I put on my tac unit.
Wonderful. Right, let's go. Next, Magnus. Go on, take us through Magnus because he has got rules for days. This is where it starts to get.
Oh my. Okay, how much of this do you want me to read, John?
I want you to give us the headlines.
Okay. If Magnus is going to go toe to toe with another Primarch,
Yep.
he will not go well.
Okay.
Simply put, the data is not great for poor Mags one on one. However, what he does have and in his kit bag and probably his most valuable asset is the way in which he can just buff his entire army
This is what we
incredibly.
always say, right? Is you tend to find Primarchs that are worth taking fall into one of two categories. They're either like superheroes of their own accord, able to kind of roll through an army on their own, or they're amazing force multiplier. So we have people like Alfarius, not great against other Primarchs, great force multiplier. We have people like Horus, amazing, amazing guy, pretty good force multiplier, but on his own, he's nuts. Same with Ferrus Manus. And then we have people like Perturabo, who are just neither and just don't take him. But what we're saying is Magnus is he's good on his own, especially. But if he's coming up against another Primarch, he's going to fall down. But as a force multiplier, he's king shit fuck mountain, right?
Yeah. There was some hard like math data that came out a while ago with the whole gamut of Primarchs and how they would fare 1v1. I think Magnus came out second last.
Yeah,
He just pipped Alfarius at the post. Yeah, so he's not great 1v1 against another Primarch in combat.
520
Um,
points.
he's super expensive. Like if you look at his stats just on a baseline, they seem just real mid for a Primarch. Nothing kind of really stands out at you, does it?
No.
However, when we get into some of his rules, which are a little bit complex, we will sort of um, unravel the multi-layer onion
Why
that
don't
he
you
is.
why don't you boil some of those rules down and say start peeling off some of those layers and see where we end up?
So he's the sire of the Thousand Sons. Any infantry unit in the army gains adamantium will 6 plus if or +1 if they haven't already got it. Um, and any unit that suffers perils of the warp reduces their number of wounds by 1 to a minimum of 1. In addition, he gains an extra assault phase reaction. So even his sire rule is not as good as some other Primarchs out there, and a little bit sort of circumstantial, I think you could say. But where he does add value is with his psychic abilities, I think. So he has access to all of the core disciplines in the rulebook.
Wild.
Every single trait. When he makes a shooting attack, um, or an attack during an assault, he chooses to use any one psychic power available to him from any discipline, regardless of which psychic powers he's used in any given turn.
Yep.
So all of a sudden, he becomes this amazing Swiss Army knife to get you out of these sticky situations, right? Or to augment and to really enhance where you're
Yeah.
picking your battles
So you really need
in
to
the
kind of
game,
invest time learning the psychic trees and figuring out where those kind of key
without a
are.
doubt. Without a doubt. And in addition to any other psychic powers that he's used, in each turn, Magnus may use any one of the minor arcana provided in the Prospering Arcana special rules, and he may use a different minor arcana every single turn. When he uses the minor arcana power, he automatically passes any test that he's required to make. So he's at no risk of perils. So if
Yeah.
you want to give him +3 move, for example, that's fine. Go right ahead. You don't need to take a test.
Yeah.
The Eye of the Crimson King, which is part of his war gear here, and his special rules. When selecting targets for his psychic powers, all models within range are assumed to be within line of sight,
That's
which
unreal.
is incredible, right? So all of a sudden, I know it's taboo for saying so, but you can use those telepathy powers when you are out of line of sight
Yeah.
and start leveraging that incredibly well.
Yeah.
Um, and his armor, the Horned Raiment, provides Magnus with 2 up, 4 up.
Yep.
And in addition, if he's struck by any weapons with Destroyer, the amount of wounds inflicted is reduced by 1 to a minimum of 1.
What?
Um, he's he's his weapons here, just to touch on quickly. Um, he's what would you call that? Like big glaive,
His
the blade
blade, his
of
blade,
the yeah, the blade of Ananerta, strength 6 AP1 melee. It is just
regular
force
force.
on its own, regular force, which means he can bring it up to strength 12,
Yep.
but it's two-handed.
Yeah.
So he'll never receive the +1 for having two
But he's
combat
got six
weapons.
attacks base anyway, right? So
Mm, yeah. Yeah. Strength 12, super handy. AP1 for cutting through vehicles.
mhm.
Terrific, in fact. However, when you are going against other Primarchs, that strength 12 may or may not double out other Primarchs and cause the D3 wounds.
Yeah, well, he's tough as
Um,
six himself, so there are other like he's not going to go toe to toe with like
the
Force
Horus
Max
or
or
or or,
Horus.
or whatnot, right? It just lacks that special word that begins with B.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah.
And his gun is actually his gun is actually quite good. It's counted
Yeah.
as a plasma and a force weapon for rules that affect such weapons. It's only range 15 inches, Strength 3 AP2, it's regular force, so you can bring it up to strength 6
Six.
AP2, assault 3, and it's got deflagrate. So
Yeah.
great for
Mm,
taking out those sort of like
yeah.
artificer armor style
Yeah.
Terminator equivalents.
Pretty good. So basically, but essentially, you're taking him to make the rest of the army better, not to really kind of fight out other
Yeah,
parts.
exactly. He's such a huge force multiplier, and when I've used him in games, that's exactly what I've found. He just augments the list and helps out the whole list. It just brings the whole baseline of the list from here up to here, which is super handy.
Cool. Like it. Okay.
The
Elites.
Sekhmet.
The Sekhmet, the often spotted Sekhmet. So they are your classic veteran Terminators. So their encounter factor is only movement 6, but the weapon skill 5, BS 4, strength 4, toughness 4, 2 initiative 4, 2 attacks, leadership 8, 2 up save, and 275 points gets you 5 guys
Mm.
who have heavy and psycho rule, and obviously the Inceptor, who's the unit champion, is a character. So they come
Yep, so
with
he's the one with the minor arcana
the
spell,
one with the
right?
minor arcana. And obviously, we've talked about how you can kind of buff those guys up to make him speedy, etc. So worth bearing that in mind. They got a combi bolter, which I'm guessing you can upgrade to Asphyx combi bolter. No, you can't. It's a combi bolter. It's not regular bolter.
Hmm.
Um, they come with an Achaean pattern force weapon. I'm guessing they can pick whichever they would like.
Yes, absolutely.
So you can have axes, swords, or mauls. The Cataphracted Terminator armor, and just like the majority of Terminators of their ilk, they are relentless, bulky 2, and stubborn. They can take some interesting options for transport. So they can take a Proteus or a Dreadclaw or a Spartan if they're over a certain size.
Hmm.
Um, Unlike some elite Terminators, you can't make them a pseudo command squad by giving them a banner, which is a bit irritating, but meh, is what it is.
Yep.
Um, Additional guys are 50 points. Any model can have a combi weapon, which is kind of quite nice, I think. Yeah. Any interest in like combi, Aether, or
A combi Aether you can't do because it's a straight swap for a plasma.
yeah, of
Plasma gun
course.
only.
Ah,
It's
fuck
the
it then.
combi attachment, and you can't change it, unfortunately.
Yeah,
I actually don't mind the Volkite charges on this unit for 2 points.
yeah,
I think that's pretty good. And just the 10 points for your classic combi melter. It's a
yeah.
lot to
It is.
pay
They
for an
start
already
getting
expensive unit.
yeah, they start getting pricey then. Any
Mm.
interest in swapping out any of the force weapons for Power Fist, Lightning Claw, Chain Fist, or Thunderhammer?
Thunderhammer, maybe, if your list calls for it. The others, probably not so much because they're already covered by the Achaean Force weapons quite well. And your next point, and the last line on this unit entry is the thing that sets that unit apart, right? Is the fact that they can take a psychic discipline of their own.
Unreal.
Mm,
A unit champion
yeah,
becomes a level 1 librarian for 25 points. But he also, I'm right in saying, retains his minor arcana, right?
100%.
So he gets his minor arcana, and then he can take, let's say, for instance, biomancy.
Exactly. Funny you mentioned Biomancy, John, because if that unit is equipped with the Achaean Force axes,
Yeah,
which are +1 strength, +2 with Achaean Force, you can then combine it again for a further +1 with the Biomancy and make those weapons strength 8, AP2.
yeah,
Look out other Terminators.
yeah,
Look out command squads. Look out anything multi-wound because that is going to hurt.
yeah. Oh, mate, big fans. So they get they're spendy, but they can be included as compulsory troops. You guard of the Crimson King. These guys are these guys are
Yeah.
top
Yeah,
tier.
yeah, yeah. Really nice, right? And if you do choose to choose a discipline that is quite shooting based, it also
Mhm.
starts making those combi weapon selections a little more redundant as well, because some of that is in lieu of shooting a weapon.
Yeah,
Something like a pyromancy, for example,
yeah,
which is incredibly powerful in its own right. So it just comes down to how you would like to play
yeah.
and run that unit, how aggressive you want to be with that unit, and also what your list calls for too.
Biomancy is the one that most people are going to refer to for these guys for their level 1 power, right? Because it also means they're going to be tougher, so they're much harder to be instant killed themselves, but they can then go out and do the insta giving on their own.
Absolutely, absolutely, and even the um Biomancer's Rage
Yep.
combat weapon is a super good psychic power, making him strength 10,
Yeah.
rending 4 plus attacks. Really good, and it's great for getting around things with battle hardened
Yeah.
and starting to kill those too really easily. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's super handy.
Absolutely. Getting up to strength 10, especially in combat, is so handy for being able to kind of whack things like Thalax, Myrmidons, stuff like that on the head. Stuff that
Mm.
is harder to deal with.
Even something like an enemy warlord or
Yeah.
praetor.
Yeah.
Chances are, these days that that praetor is probably going to have something like a thunder hammer
Hmm.
more
Yeah.
often than not these days.
Yeah.
And having the ability to even put that biomancy on, a character that's not renowned for being in combat, like a master of signals, for example,
Yep.
all of a sudden makes his attacks strength 10, AP 4, rending 4 plus in combat, and he's striking before the Praetor and taking his head off.
Yeah. It's lovely. It's absolutely wonderful, right?
Mm,
Cool.
yeah,
So,
it's awesome.
Sekhmet, big thumbs up for Sekhmet. Super versatile, can go in lists really nicely. Away we go. We're going to have to route through these, otherwise, we are going to be here until the rest of time.
Let's do it.
So, the Contemptor Asarian Dreadnought. So, for argument's sake, he is a standard Contemptor Dread. Weapon skill BS5, strength 7, toughness 7, 6 wins, initiative 4, 3 attack, leadership 9. But he is 200 points. Why is he 200 points, guys? Let's figure it out. So he comes as standard with your Gravis Bolt Cannon, but he also has a Gravis Force Blade with built-in Combi Bolter. Interesting. He also gains Adamantium Will 4 up, which I think is really, really cool. So why is he a consideration to put into your list, Adam?
He's not a consideration for me because he's almost in every single list, John. I like this guy so much, and I'll tell you
Okay.
for why.
Yes.
He has access to not only minor arcana spells, like we
Yeah.
mentioned briefly
Yeah.
before, he can also upgrade to have a full psychic discipline all to himself. So it's a hefty amount of points to pay on the 200 that you're already paying. However,
Is it
if you
though?
do have the points, it is so worth it. I've run games where I've just run him with the minor arcana spell to get
Yeah.
him up the board as quick as possible
So
with
you're
something like the
giving him
+3
making him
move.
movement 11, right? That's what you're doing. That's
Yeah.
just, do you consider taking anything else, or is he just movement 11?
All of a sudden, he may be running 15 inches,
Yeah.
right? Ignoring terrain.
Yeah.
And really starting to put the screws on the enemy from a pressure perspective. And if you are going to upgrade him with a psychic discipline too, chances are it might be a shooting one, like a pyromancy, like a
Mhm.
telepathy. So I find it wiser to invest the points in your psychic discipline rather than an expensive shooting weapon for him,
So you
because
want him to have,
one's in lieu of the other, right?
yeah. So for instance, let's for argument's sake say, so he's got his Gravis Force Blade strength and AP2, melee brutal 2, which is lovely, and a
Hmm.
K and Force. So in theory, he's likely to be strength 11.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
okay. And then you might give him telepathy, and then so you can stop someone reacting at him. So all of a sudden,
Yep.
you give him your move +3 movement, he's running 11, he's then charging in against, say, a unit of Myrmidons, as an example, who aren't going to be reacting against him, and then he's going to be just wailing on him, chopping him apart left, right, and center.
Absolutely. I don't actually hear a lot of people talking about the Osiris Dread. And I think he does get overlooked because his combat weapon's only brutal 2, whereas standard Dreadnought Fist is brutal 3. And
Yeah,
everyone just really values that. However, a Dreadnought Fist stops at strength 9. This
yeah,
goes up to strength 11.
yeah. His
And
turn
so
right up to
he
11.
gets he gets around, he goes full spinal tap, and he
Yeah,
gets around units with battle hardened.
yeah,
So Huskarls, no
yeah.
probs. Death Shroud, no
Ugh.
probs. He'll get through it.
Yeah,
So
well, yeah,
it really does start to become like this non-issue for him. Myrmidons, see a pal.
yeah. But
not
you also
fast.
potentially as well, you can give him biomancy.
Exactly.
So then he
Exactly.
becomes what, strength 12,
12.
toughness 8.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah, fucking
Yeah,
hell.
yeah, yeah,
What
yeah.
absolute
So
mug trucking.
yeah,
Is there
I
an
think
argument for taking multiple contemporary Sauron dreadnoughts in the list?
absolutely there is. If you have the points and if that's the way you want to style your list, just know that it's a hefty investment in points.
Yeah,
So you may need to make up the pitfalls of that in other parts of your list. Um, Dreadnoughts are already excellent as they are this edition.
yeah,
And when you do equip them with all these psychic layers, it
yeah. When you
really
become a mega
starts
dread.
to open up the possibilities and the threat range, especially on something like your Dreadnought.
So, okay, we're starting to see some stuff happening here. So, again, Contemptor Siren Dreadnought, rocking and rolling. Castellax, AK Automata, look cool, really nice idea, great backstory. Let's not be around the bush. They're total dog shit, right?
Sadly, yes.
Okay, so the pitfalls
I
are
mean, I mean, we can polish this turd as much as you like, John,
go on,
but at the end of the
polish it
day,
up. Why
it'll
not?
still be a turd.
Okay, let's give it a quick. Let's tell you what. Rather than polishing, let's roll it in glitter and see what we can come up with.
All right, some highlights, if
Yeah,
you can call them that, is the claws, which sets them apart from your normal Mechanicum or
yep,
indentured Castellax. The claws are actually really cool. Strength
yep,
6, AP 3, awesome for blending mooks, right?
yep,
Rending 5 plus in case you run into any 2 plus armor.
yep.
And
And you
it's a
can make
K
them
and
strength
force with the ability to go to strength 8, right? Super cool.
but let down by the
Um,
fact that they're weapon skill 3.
and only 2 attack space.
Yeah.
They used to have Rage 2
Hmm.
back in last edition, and they've lost that too now. So even on the charge, you know, with a miserly amount of attacks, gonna miss most of them. Not great, right?
But there are some cool other rules. I think we would be doing them a disservice if we didn't at least go through some of the more interesting special rules. So,
There's a lot to read. There's a lot to read. I think. Do you mind if I just
go
paraphrase
for it. You go for it,
what the
mate.
actual concept of it might be?
Yeah,
So these models can actually be used as a conduit point for your ranged psychic abilities. So if the Castellax is within a certain range of your own friendly psychic units, you can, for example, do a telepathic fugue or a pyromancy
yeah,
or a diviner's dart from this model, drawing your range and line of sight from this model. So you could potentially have a character hidden somewhere within range of the Castellax and still fire that spell from the Castellax point of view.
yeah,
Super handy. I love the theme of it. I love the theme of it. Um, it's just a hefty amount of points to invest in a list where you're already paying overs for some
yeah,
units with psychic abilities.
yeah. Yeah, I get you. I think this is a strange one, and it's a bit of a shame, but oh, yeah, it is what it is, right?
Mm, yeah,
Could be made to be cool, but unfortunately not.
go for it.
So, counter-ties. This is another interesting unit, another of the elite special units. Talk to us about the Kenetai Blade Occult, because I think these guys are always super, super cool.
They're super savage, right? They look cool. The idea of them is cool. They've got cool rules. However, they do have a very niche place in the list.
Okay.
So essentially, they've got veteran stats, right?
Yeah.
Happy with that?
Hmm.
They do have just a 3+ save. However, they are all chosen warriors, super cool, and they come with 2 AK-M4 swords as standard. Now, they can include up to 5 more for 24 points each. For
Yeah.
every 5 in a unit, you can take an Aether Fire pistol and a hand flamer. Cool sort of fluffy options, but why would you? Um,
They just want to be
the
slicing and
Blade
dicing.
Master, the Blade Master can take the Artificer armor, which is cool.
Yep.
And he may also take multi-bombs. So it's interesting to note that you cannot change their swords. They're stuck with 2 swords and that's it. Even the sergeant.
Uh-oh.
So
Is that a bummer? Probably not.
Just bear in mind that this unit will always have AP3 attacks unless those rendings start to come up.
But they've got plenty of
So in,
attacks, right?
so instead of a minor arcana,
Hmm.
like we've been talking about, these guys have their own, right? So they gain the Mind Song of Blades psychic power and can't select a minor arcana from the Prospering Arcana tree.
But you can put, say, an apothecary in with them. You can have a minor arcana, right?
Let's just read the next rule.
Ah,
Important to know. At the start of the controlling player's turn, a psychic check may be made for a unit composed entirely of models with this psychic power, using the highest leadership characteristics among the models. If the check's successful, then the unit gains +1 to the following characteristics until the start of the controlling player's next turn. I believe they also have a little rule saying that they lose that power if they're joined by any other unit or
okay.
any other model. I think that little bit is cropped out. I've got the lever book right next to me if you'd like me to check.
You check, and I'll talk about why these guys are so cool. So,
Go for it.
Mind Song Blades, if they pass their psychic check, they gain an additional +1 to their movement, weapon skill, and attacks. So buffs them to movement 8. So I'm right in thinking that this does affect their charge bonus, right? Because it affects their baseline movement.
Correct.
What they can potentially do is jump out of their dedicated land raider, move 8, and then charge 2d6 at +1. They're going to be getting 4 attacks each, 5 for the sergeant, and they're going to be weapon skill 6.
Okay, it's not an extra line. I've just skimmed over this reading, and it is that a psychic check may be made for a unit composed entirely of models with this psychic power. So every single model in that unit
Must have it.
must have access to this power in order for the unit to benefit from the power. So
Okay.
if you were to add an apothecary into that unit, or if you
Mhm.
were to add a independent character into the unit, the whole
Yep.
unit does not then have that power. So
Interesting. Okay,
these
so worth
guys
bearing
pretty
in mind.
much need to run solo.
Okay, so they're less survivable, but they're way, way, way more choppy. So,
Mm.
I mean, these guys
They're
are
a blend. They're a blender unit, right?
terrifying.
Yeah, awesome in something like Guard of the Crimson King.
Yep.
They can deep strike in, come straight down, charge,
Yep.
get stuck in.
Yep.
Go for those juicy power armor units with the 3+ save. That way the
Yep.
swords just go through them, right?
Causing fear in that first turn as well.
Mm-hmm. Super
Again,
cool. Um,
really cool.
really cool unit. However, because of that Mind Song of Blades power and that particular wording of that rule,
Mhm.
the ceiling on that unit's potential isn't as great as some other units that we've covered, if that makes sense.
Worth bearing in mind, but again, worth serious consideration.
And they can plug a really good hole in your list because yeah, a lot of the Thousand Sons units they do want for a little bit more combat, I feel.
Good. So they perform a particular job very well.
Hmm.
So the numerologist cabals. This is the exemplary battles unit. It's 0 to 1 and sits in the elite slots. So they are 130 points for 5 guys. So you get a numerologist, and he's accompanied by 4 life wards. So the numerologist is essentially a centurion stat line. So 5/5, 4/4, 2 wounds, initiative 5, 2 attacks, leadership 9, and a 2-up save. And then the life wards are weapon skill, skill 4, strength 4, toughness 4, 1 wound, 1 initiative 4, and 1 attack, leadership 7 with a 3-up save. So the war gear is pretty interesting, but it's mainly on the numerologist. So he gets an Achaean Force axe, so that's what he comes with as standard. And I'm right in thinking he can only exchange it up it to the Thunderhammer, right?
Yes, correct.
I think. And he also gets a servo arm, interestingly. The life wards gain a chainsword and power armor, and the special rules are the numerologist gets Battlesmith 4-up and is relentless. And the special rule numerologist order, and then the life wards get the life. Oh, sorry, he gets the life warded special rule as well. So The numerologist order is a model with this special rule gains the psi synchronicity psychic power and may not select a minor arcana from those presented by the prospering arcana. So, psi synchronicity, what does this do for us, Adam?
In a nutshell, this power gains a geolocator beacon
Yep.
until the end of the turn. So he's pretty much gazing at the stars, being a homing beacon for his friends. In addition, up to 2 friendly units composing entirely of models with the Legion Astartes special rule, with 1 or more models within 6 inches, using the psi synchronicity, gain a bonus of +1 BS during the active player's shooting phase, so long as the models with the psychic power do not make a shooting attack in the shooting phase.
So he's a mega
If the
tech marine,
checks,
right?
essentially, he's just like a souped-up tech marine,
Yeah,
correct?
but
And
he's buffing
instead
2
of gaining
units.
instead of gaining access to like a Cognitive Signum for himself and his unit,
Yep.
he has a spell that can apply it to 2 units around him.
So, but also interestingly, it's not just infantry units; it's any unit. So it can be applied to vehicles. If you've got, say, Kratos Squadron or
Yep.
Predator Squadron
Yep.
with Aether
Yeah,
Fire, Magma Cannon.
that's a really good point to make, especially because Thousand Suns vehicles gain no benefit from their
Yeah,
Legion trait.
yeah.
So this is one of the things where they do benefit. So it's quite nice and refreshing.
And then so for argument's sake, say you've got him sat between a tank squadron and then your las cannon heavy support squadron that's got its precision shot on the first wound. They're hitting on
Mm-hmm.
2s now as opposed to 3s, or 3s with night fighting. This is nice. So how are you going to build this guy? Are you going to bother giving him any upgrades, or are you just going to leave him as a backfield kind of unit buffer? Is he a siege breaker, for want of a better term?
I think I could just keep him cheap as chips. He's
Yep.
way too expensive as it is, I
Yeah.
think. It's essentially him, which is a souped up sort of tech marine plus 5 tactical marines as his, 4 tactical
Yeah.
marines as his little bodyguard. So I think you're already sort of paying overs for the 130 points. So if he is going to be backfield as
Mhm.
well, which he is majority of the time, I'd just keep him cheap as chips.
So the life order special rule is quite nice because quite often single characters on their own can be quite vulnerable, but this is going to make him a little less vulnerable. So no wounds may be allocated to the numerologist regardless of the attacking model's rules or effects. So vigilators, sniper, precision shot, doesn't matter. You can't target him. You have to target the life wards first. So if the numerologist is engaged in a challenge, then this rule does not apply. However, if the numerologist controlling player chooses to refuse a challenge for a model that includes a model with the life order special rule, then the opposing player loses the option to stop one model from participating in the combat. Not bad. Not bad at all. So
Mm-hmm.
he's hard to get rid of. You've got to wade through his bodyguard first. And then additionally, a unit that includes any model with a special rule may not be joined by any model that does not also. So you can't then put an apothecary in there as well.
Mm. Yeah, so I mean, look, a lot of the time, if he is in the backfield to buff tanks and stuff, chances are he's probably behind the tank anyway.
Yeah.
So out of danger. However, the range on his psychic power is only 6 inches.
Yeah.
So he may have to stand out in the open with his dick in the wind a little bit. So it is good to have that bodyguard around him.
But you can also give him things like a Nuncio Vox as well to make him a little bit more interesting. An Augury Scanner too, if you need to kind of help protect your backfield a little bit from infiltrating units. So worth consideration. So I kind of look at this guy and say he's, depending on how you're building your list, he's a consideration, right? But not necessarily an auto include.
Not necessarily an auto include. Another consideration, you might want to play aggressive with him actually. So having the geolocator beacon might be great for something like Guard of the Crimson King list where units have to come in.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to play him higher up the board,
With his
and
rotor
to
cannon
really
squad.
buff those units when they do come down.
Yeah.
So that's another way you could sort of think about using him as well. But I do think he's just a little bit exy
Okay.
for what you get.
That's fair enough. That is absolutely fair enough. But what we're currently seeing so far is I think we've got a couple of units of Sekhmet, a rotor cannon, and an Aether Fire squad attached in your Guard the Crimson King with this guy coming down, and all of a sudden that's pretty scary. So your two's a Sekhmet, your numerologist, your rotor cannon squad, your Aether Fire blaster squad, and then your what are they called? The choppy guys you just talked about, Kanatai blades, right?
Kanatai.
There's your six.
And then
There's your bubble.
yeah, and then just to be super cynical about it, it looks terrific on paper, and then when you go to roll those psychic power dice, everything just goes
Everything just goes to
against you.
shit. But hey, 60% of the time it's going to work every time, right?
Go for it.
So this is the legacy unit. This is the Amatara Occult Intercession Cabal. They are 175 points. So
Mm.
you get an intercessor, so 4 intercessors and a fate, who's like the unit sergeant. These guys are movement 8, weapon skill 4, BS 5, strength 4, toughness 4, 1 wound, initiative 4, 1 attack, leadership 7, and a 4 up save. So these guys are like your scouts, basically, right?
Elite scouts even.
Elite one. Yeah.
I reckon, I think they are possibly one of the most interesting units in this army. I mean, they've only got the carapace armor. They've got a 4+ save.
Mhm.
However, they're stacked with Nemesis bolters. They've got the Shroud bombs. They're relentless, which is huge on
Yeah.
Nemesis bolters, right? And they're BS5 too. So you're moving. You got Scout and Infiltrate, move through cover. You're moving all the time. You're sniping all the time. Super cool unit.
Yep.
They are incredibly expensive in points.
Yeah.
However, there
They're cool as
there
fuck,
are
right?
ways that we can talk about a little bit later to make them even more impressive than what they are.
Why don't we
So,
talk about that now while we're talking about them? Just otherwise we get sidetracked on something else. So how can you make them more impressive?
with Magistus Ammon in your list, who's
Okay.
who's who's coming up in a slide, I
Yeah.
believe.
So can we quickly, interesting, they can take a Storm Eagle as a dedicated transport, which is absolutely
Don't know
wicked.
why you ever would, but yeah,
No,
they
it's
can.
cool. It's cool as fuck though, right?
Oh
Um,
yeah.
what about Mind Killer, which is their special rule?
So at the start of their turn, before any models are moved, take a test. Using the leadership characteristic of any model with the unit that doesn't have the independent character special rule. So if it's passed, the shooting attacks of all models in the unit with the psych unit subtype gain the rending 4+ and ignores cover in addition to any other effects that the weapon might have for the duration of that turn. But this cannot be used where the attacking weapons have either the template or the blast special rules. If the check is failed, then no benefit is gained. The unit suffers perils.
These guys are fit.
Yeah, they're sick. They're good. They aren't seen too much either. So it's a really cool way of adding a really dynamic and interesting element into your list that is seldom seen, I think.
I think these guys are unreal. Nemesis bolters with potential for rending 4 up,
Mm.
ignoring cover. I can see a real place. So, they don't have line that like a recon squad would do, for instance, but never mind. Um, what are these guys for?
And interestingly, they're a fast attack as well.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So what are these guys
Yeah,
for? Where are they going to be? What's their job?
just nailing characters, I think.
I think so.
Even something like a dreadnought,
Yeah.
or
Oh yeah.
all of a sudden you're rending 4+ on a dreadnought,
Yeah.
and just pegging wounds off it. Yeah, really cool.
Yeah. I think these guys have got, and I'm right in thinking they can take a minor arcana on top of Mind Killer as well, correct?
I believe they can. I actually think that this is the revised entry um, for the Legacies unit because Mind Killer was worded slightly differently before, where that rending 4+ didn't affect their Nemesis bolters. It was really weird. I think they've just gone in and done a cheeky correction on here, like they have some of the other Legacies
Yeah.
rules.
Fair enough, but a definite consideration.
Yeah, they're sick.
Cool. Inducti. I would say probably, I think when we looked at these guys, when we did the Inducti review on the Patreon, I feel like these were one of the slightly better Inducti, but that's not necessarily saying much.
I think they're like they'll catfish you a little bit. These
Oh,
these
okay.
guys. Yeah, they'll honey dick you just a little bit. Um, Essentially, they can't select the minor arcana, something
Yeah.
that is so valuable on just your standard guys, and instead, they get this etheric guidance. So when a unit that includes a psyker with this power makes a shooting attack, the controlling player makes a psychic check for the psyker with this power before any rolls to hit are made. If the psychic check is successful, then the unit. Sorry, if the check is successful, then until that shooting attack is resolved, attacks made by this unit have the breaching 6+ special rule. If it's failed, then you suffer perils and receive 1 additional wound as well, because these inducti are a little bit unstable when it comes to the psychic side of things.
So the things that let them down, right, is the fact that inductor have got lower leadership.
Absolutely. So you're going to be copying perils
Yep.
a lot harder than what you would another unit as well. I mean, breaching 6+ does look pretty tasty on something that's going to be rapid firing or furying in some cases, but I just think that shred from the
They
asphyx shells
can't
just works
fury.
better.
They can't fury anyway. They lose fury.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, there you go.
So, yeah.
There
So
you go.
not bad.
And these guys can't exchange their ammo either.
No, so there's no shredding.
No shredding and double dipping on those breachings.
So you think these guys are a trap, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I think you're
They're
just better off with standard tacticals or assault marines.
fine. So they fall quite heavily into the don't buy category.
Yeah.
What about Araman? You going to be buying Araman?
Fuck yes.
Okay.
He has underwhelming stats, right? I will
But
say this, but he has probably one of the best warlord traits in the game.
yeah, it's fucking wild. So stats
Remember?
wise,
Yeah.
he's
So
Praetor
stats
stats.
stats wise, yeah, he's Praetor stats, but he's only weapon skill 5.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he is. Oh yeah, bless him. And he's 185 points.
Yeah.
So he
Yeah,
comes
he's
with
he's only weapon skill 5.
yeah. He comes with a mastercrafted Asphyx bolt pistol, the Corvidaean scepter, artificial armor, and an iron halo, and grenades. He does have quite a lot of special rules though. So he
Mm.
adamantium will 3 up. He's Arch Magister of the Corvidae. He's traitor only, and his warlord trait is the Pattern of Fates. So Pattern of Fates, talk us through this, please.
Okay, if he is the warlord, then once all models have been deployed onto the battlefield, including any infiltrator units, after any units have been redeployed using the scout special rule, but before the first turn is begun, the controlling player may select up to 3 friendly units and either redeploy them to any other position within the controlling player's deployment zone or remove them from the battlefield and place them in reserves. In addition, an army using Ahriman may make an additional reaction in any one phase per turn, as
That's
long as Ahriman hasn't been removed as a casualty.
that's
So remember when we were saying that deployment's one of the most crucial and important elements to
yeah.
winning a game? This guy can do the ultimate bait and switch in the deployment phase. All of a sudden, you can start coupling this with a rite of war like Guard of the Crimson King, and you can set up your whole force, have your opponent also deploy, and then rotate units into and out of your deep strike assault reserve.
Yeah, this is absolutely bonkers. And you've got to take like Magnus or Araman or Praetor in your Guard the Crimson King anyway, right?
Exactly. He's attacks in that build,
Yeah.
but he has possibly the most powerful rider war in the game. Oh,
Oh,
sorry,
so that
warlord
warlord
trait in the
trait,
game.
you would give many things up to be able to take that into any list, wouldn't you? It's fucking bananas. Like, cannot overemphasize how good a warlord trait that is.
It's incredible. It is.
Yeah.
It's really incredible. I mean, his weapons, pretty tasty as well. It's counted as a regular force weapon
Yeah.
too.
So
So it's +1 strength,
yeah, it's plus one strength,
AP2.
AP2. Yeah.
It's reach 1, so he has the +1 initiative, which is
Yeah.
really cool, and it's master crafted.
And so he's going to need that because he's only weapon skill 5, right? But
Exactly.
being strength 10 as well.
Strength 10, AP2 at initiative 6,
Yeah.
master crafted, just to help you get past that weapon skill issue.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Yeah.
And he is, of course, the first chief librarian and the archmagister. So he gains the minor arcana Corvidae, which
Yep.
is like the divination style one, and the divination and the very unseen thaumaturgy.
Thaumaturgy.
Yes, from the psychic list. So yeah, essentially he's your diviner, right?
Yeah. Oh
Super
man.
cool. I actually a lot of people can the model too.
I think model's
Um
good.
and and they say that yeah, he's a little bit too small, blah blah blah, whatever. But I think the model is sensational.
Yeah, no, I really like the model. For one of those kind of early clamshell plastics, I think this has stood the test of
It's
time really, really nice. It looks way
fit
better than
as
Fafnir
fuck.
Rand does.
Ugh, yuck.
Amon, this guy is, I fucking love this guy's backstory. It's so good. And he
He's
just,
off the chain.
yeah, he's really cool. He's a great, great, great character. And as we'll come to as well, makes some really interesting things happen within the army, right? So,
Yeah, he's amazing.
yeah, he is really, really good. So he is a proper Praetor because he's weapon skill 6.
Yep.
Only 3 wounds, but obviously, he's not in Terminator armor, so you don't expect him to. Um, he is 185 points, the same points as Ahriman, but he's going to make your army play in a completely different way. Um,
100%.
his war gear, he's got an Architect pistol, which is always cool. I love Architect pistols. The Reliquary of Dust, Armor of Shades, an Iron Halo, Frag and Crack grenades, and his special rules are Magister of Dust, Infiltrate, and again, traitor only, and his Warlord trait is Lord of Hidden Paths.
Yeah, so super interesting, right? He's a Praetor level character with Infiltrate.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think he's my favorite Thousand Sons character. So
Yeah.
his Warlord trait has changed since last edition.
Hmm.
And now if he is the Warlord, then all units in the same army with Infiltrate and Scout. So the units must have Infiltrate and Scout.
Yeah.
Special rules, gain the Shrouded 5+. Special rules for the duration of the first 2 game turns. In addition, um, you have an additional movement phase reaction. So what that means is any Recon Marines, any Amatara that we just covered,
Yeah.
um, they both have Infiltrate and Scout.
Hmm.
Um, they will be Shrouded 5+ for the first 2 game turns. And the first 2 game turns are the most shooty turns of the game. So if you're running, for example, a recon company
Hmm.
where recon marines are compulsory troops and super,
Yeah.
super, super effective, all of a sudden, everything essentially has a 5+ damage mitigation. It is
Yeah.
off the chain.
Yeah.
It is so, so, so underrated.
And he himself is no slouch. So the Armor of Shade provides a 2-up armor save, and on any turn in which Magister's Ammon has moved or is within the bounds of a zone of area terrain, just moved,
Correct.
just move him. Gain Shrouded 4-up. He's got 4-up invulnerable and then 4-up. He's got 4-up, 4-up.
It's insane. It
Yeah.
is so good.
Obviously, there are ways of countering Shrouded, but they're fewer and far between than you might consider.
Yep.
Um, the Reliquary of Dust is a count as a force weapon for rules that affect such weapons. Its strength as user AP2, melee, poison 4-up, reaping blow 1, mastercrafted, but also force as well. It doesn't have the force
It
special
is
rule
not.
though.
It is
So,
not force.
well, yeah,
It's
sorry.
treated as
It's
a force weapon,
treated as
just
force
doesn't
weapon, but it
have
doesn't
that
have the
rule.
force
Yeah.
rule, so you're not going to be able to make him strength 8, but still.
Yeah. Yeah. Still, it's super handy. It's a sword that is essentially AP2 and poison 4+, which is sick.
Yeah.
And reaping blow, I think that's getting an extra attack if he's outnumbered.
Correct. Yeah.
So yeah, he's going up to six attacks
Yeah.
base, which is super sick.
Yeah.
And it can also be used to make a shooting attack once per battle instead of attacking normally. So I think he just breaks the little
Blow.
orb that's in there, and all the dust just comes flying out. It's range 6 inches, strength 1, assault 2d6, so it can be up to 12 shots. On average, it's going to be a 7.
Yeah.
Poison 4+, it's concussive 3,
3.
and rending 6+,
So bearing in mind with concussive, you haven't got to suffer an unsaved wound in order to be able to, in order to take a concussive test.
just
You
the hit.
just have to be hit by it. So he's going to be
Exactly.
able to concuss it. Like there's a strong possibility he's going to concuss a unit and then go in and absolutely smash their dicks in.
Yeah. And remember, concussion works on things like dreadnoughts as
Yep.
well. Even though they are fearless, it is a leadership test. It's not a morale or pinning test. So a leadership test is just a characteristic test like anything else. So you can concuss a dreadnought with this as well.
It's absolutely crazy. And then Magister of Dust, Ammon gains the divination and telepathy disciplines and the core disciplines.
Mm.
And may not select any other minor arcana or psychic disciplines.
Yeah, so interestingly, this guy can't have the
Take a
minor
minor.
arcana.
Yeah.
Mm. But he's got telepathy as
Yeah.
standard, which makes up for any shortfalls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And that's do you know what? Just go back a second because I just before we kind of just do
Oops.
the last bits of thanks, I just want to say, well, obviously, thank you to yourself, Alan, for coming in. I want to kind of get
No, it's a pleasure.
some
Anytime. I love being on, so
final.
thank you for having me back.
Oh, mate, honestly, it's absolutely our pleasure. I mean, I would have been screwed without you here. So, um, can you give us your kind of like closing thoughts? What are you for people that are now thinking, holy shit, like I'm a bit Thousand Suns fizzy. Where
Mm.
kind of what are your sort of takeaways really? Where are the pitfalls? Give us a bit of a summing up.
Okay, I won't beat around the bush. It is a challenging army to play.
Yeah,
The Legion rules are they aren't strong compared to some other legions that are
yeah.
out there, right? They're definitely on the softer side of things. A lot of people tend to say that they're actually the worst legion out there.
Nah. See, I
However,
think, yeah,
however,
like I wanted to try and provide some context to my thoughts that they are one of the most overlooked and kind of sleeper
mm,
legions out there, right?
and that is exactly right. So, if you are the type of person that enjoys playing tactically,
Mhm.
enjoys the multi-layeredness
The nuances,
of
right?
and the nuances, and you love playing that cerebral style army,
Yeah,
uh, definitely consider the Thousand Suns because they are some of the most fun, some of the most rewarding units to play with as well. And when you do pull off those multi-layered combos, boy, it feels good.
yeah. I think, like I said, there seems to be a thinking person's army. Am I right in saying that the key to this army is largely list creation?
Absolutely. Take a long time planning your list and planning the nuances of your list, how units are going to interact with one another,
Yeah,
how how your core psychic disciplines from your independent characters can not just be destructive to the opponent,
yeah,
but support your army and make your army even better, or make it easier for your units to do things within the game.
yeah,
And then use that cult arcana across your units to essentially establish a play style as well throughout your list. Look for little combos that might be tasty, that you may be interested in playing. We've touched on a few really unique ones, but with the amount of Cult Arcana that's out there and the amount of units that are available, the combinations are almost endless.
yeah. I think that's the thing, right? Is it's a case of really deciding quite early on how you want the army to play,
Mm,
maybe what things
yeah.
you struggle with existing armies, and then kind of maybe looking to kind of, or when you go to events like this particular scenario, often gets the better of me. So how can I counter that, and then start building your lists around those kind of thoughts, right?
They're a really good point of difference army too. So if you play a particular legion, it might you can create a Thousand Suns list to play in the completely opposite play style.
Yeah,
It may not be 10 out of 10 dialed up super effective, but there are contingencies that you can put in place to
yeah,
make it play the way you want to play.
and it's
And it is super unique, and it does give your opponents a lot to think about because you don't see Thousand Suns too often.
no, you don't.
Yeah, and one bit of advice I would have is when you are in that sort of list building and experimental phase, you do really need to be patient because it's super easy to get frustrated with the way that the dice can betray you for something as simple as psychic test. So be patient, find out what works and what doesn't work, what units you want to use, what play style you want to go for, and really just build upon from there.
Mate, that's perfect. Couldn't have said it better myself, and that's why we got you. Right, we're going to do the remainder of the thanks and the last bit of wrapping up. So, thank you to Curtain Games and Oakhampton Games, based in the Southwest in the UK. They do a lot of stuff for us. They host events regularly, have a good heresy community around there. I know the guys are keen to put on some more heresy events in the tail end of the year and into next year, and also kind of dabbling with some quite well attended old world stuff as well, if that's your thing. Hit them up because they've also got a great shop where you can buy all of your heresy goodies, and they are offer great pricing and reliable and speedy delivery as well. It's where I get the majority of my plastics from. Big up those guys. Bits Monster, if you're not after an entire box set but just want a single bit and or bob, or a sprue for this, or a Spartan for that, or some 5 Mark 6 and some special weapons, then head over to Bits Monster, check out their website. They offer free UK shipping for orders over 25 quid and a kind of very competitive international shipping, and use code HeresyHammer, all caps, for 10% off all heresy items at checkout. Battle Bling, they've just launched their new Battle Builder for all your nameplates and other bits and bobs. They've got some fantastic conversion kits for 28mm and a lot of stuff for 8mm for both AT and LI. Yet again, head over to the Battle Bling store and use code HeresyHammer for 10% off with them. Let us know you came from us. And then we've got the Roll of Honor, which we've had to split into 2 parts. So we have a
Oh my God. Look how long this list is, John.
I
Roll of
know,
Honor, more like rolling in cash.
it's wild, isn't it? So
Amazing.
if you'd like more Heresy Hammer content, you can visit us over on our Patreon. Head over to Patreon, search for Heresy Hammer. You can subscribe for just £3 a month. We do 2 extra shows every month for our kind of base tier, and then these are our supporters on our Praetor tier who will be receiving their special Heresy Hammer merch and some other gifts and goodies over the coming months. There's also a 7-day free trial you can have as well. So yeah, go over on the Patreon. It really kind of helps support the show. And like I said, from just £3 a month, you can gain a lot more Heresy Hammer content, where we tend to go into the kind of tactical, nuanced deep dives. If you're seeing a lot of mech, or you're mech curious, we're just finishing up the last part of our kind of 4-part mechanic and deep dive, but there's also things like how to counter out the mech over there, how to play with fast attacks, what are kind of some interesting other units you might want to field, and how can you utilize them in your games. If you like nuance and you've enjoyed this show, there's a lot of content like that over on the Patreon. There's 500, 600 patrons now, so go and join a club. And also, if you're subscribed, then don't forget to join the Heresy Hammer Lodge over on Facebook, which is exclusive for Patreon subscribers. Don't forget to head over to Instagram, follow Heresy Hammer Show on Instagram, and when you're posting your miniatures, use hashtag Heresy Hammer. We pick out some of our favorites and talk about them on and critique them over on the community shows that we do every month now. Obviously, if you've got this far and you're not subscribed, then please just do us a huge favor and hit the subscribe button. It costs nothing. I think about 80% of all of our views come from non-subscribers, so it'd be really handy if somebody just click that button. Like the video, drop a comment, give us. I'd like you to all actually comment your thanks for Adam for giving up his normally raucous Friday night to discuss.
Oh no, not raucous anymore. Not with little kids. No way.
But yeah, if you can all just drop a comment and say thank you to Adam very much for joining us this evening. If you've got any questions, correspondence, if you've got want to talk us to go through some lists, for instance, our next community show, we've got some list submissions, but we'd like a few more. You can email them to heresyhammer30k@gmail.com. Very interested to see what you're coming up with for your Thousand Sons armies now. And now I've got a bit more of an understanding. We can go through them at length. And then lastly, like I said, if you would like to support the show, then feel free to head over to the Patreon. £3, £5 or £13 a month, and you can get loads and loads and loads of additional stuff over there. There's I would say it's probably the best value Patreon of anyone in the world. So there you go.
I concur.
Thanks,
Amazing.
mate. That's much appreciated.
Amazing.
Oh,
You can't tell you're a salesman, John. That was incredible.
mate. Yeah, anyone would think that I rely on my my smooth tongue in order to provide. I'll keep a roof over my head.
You guys are doing a terrific job. Keep
Thanks,
going.
much
It's amazing.
appreciated. It's much appreciated. All right. Thank you to Adam. Thank you everyone for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed it and found it interesting. And we'll give you some ideas on not only how to create your Thousand Suns force, but also how to counteract your naughty psychic sausages you might be facing at games and events coming up that you're going to. And with that, we will say thank you very much and bid you a fond farewell. And we look forward to seeing you for the next one.
Bye bye.
Take care, everyone. Bye bye.